What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Hoop Show. My name is Ben Reeve. It's a Sunday night. I'm doing it solo. There is an option if you want to jump in. I've got the link in the chat there as well. If you are watching this live and you want to share your thoughts on everything that's been happening in the world of the AFL this week, you might want to talk about some of the fun trade stuff that's going on. Clayton Oliver, I'll touch on that a little bit. I'll talk a little bit about Callum Mills and Aaron Norton, 8 years. What's going on there? The AFLW team, the Cats AFLW team, played Essendon today. I'll talk about that. I'll do my review of that through the week, but we'll talk about that as well. And just generally, the Cats very, very quiet during trade week. If this is your first time watching the show, thanks for joining us. I've got a comment in the chat here. Hey, Luke, how you going? Just me tonight, Luke. Unless you want to jump in, there's the chat. The chat link down in the comments. If you want to click on that one, I'll let you in. So yeah, look, it's been one of those weeks. I'm not super keen on trade week, especially when Geelong's not very active, which has been the case for us this year. Maybe previous years we've been a little bit more active in this space, but it's been very quiet for us lately. Doesn't seem like we've got any big moves. You never know with Geelong; they might be planning something, but I think we know about it by now. It feels like we're just going to pick up some unknown in the draft and maybe swap some picks around and get an extra pick somewhere along the way, like a picks 50 or something like that, maybe through the Sava Radigalia trade. Hopefully we'll get something out of that. But the big talk of the week really has been the Clayton Oliver stuff. And yes, this is a Geelong show, but because there's not a lot of Geelong news at the moment, we'll touch on some of the other AFL stuff going on. Clayton Oliver, what a beat up that story was. Unbelievable. I don't want to sort of go into it too much because I think it's been done to death by the media, other than to say just the way it was handled by a few players. When I say players, I mean club managers, so forth. I don't know. It just didn't sit really well with me the way. I don't particularly know the guy. I don't really know what's going on with him. I'm sort of putting two and two together and think I know what's happening, but I just think it's not great to have to go through some of that stuff. And if it was one of our players or someone I knew or something like that, you'd feel pretty crap. Just if it was in your job, and you were being shopped around like that and told that you might not be welcome, and then all of a sudden you are, it's got to mess with your head a little bit. So that whole stuff didn't sit comfortably with me at all. I'm not sure how everyone else feels about that, but that's just the way it sort of sat with me. I was not super keen on how all that played out. Luke, what's Luke saying? Do you think we'll have something in the works with how quiet we are? Yeah, look, I don't think we do, Luke. I don't think anything's happening really. I can't see. It's probably more the assistant coaches we're making some moves at the moment, but I don't think there's any major players putting their hand up for Geelong. There's been nothing mentioned. I've been scouring the internet for any news or listening to the radio, and just nothing talking about the Cats at all. Really, we've missed out on. There was a little bit of talk about the Clayton Oliver stuff, but that died as soon as it started. Really, how you going, Brandon? Welcome to the channel, mate. So yeah, that kind of stuff went away quicker. There's really been nothing about Geelong at all. So the big one that dropped today, which I didn't have on the thumbnail, was Taylor Adams just told Collingwood that he's keen to move to Sydney for 3 years. So, which you'll probably see him out. So I guess he'd been up in GWS when he started his career, and maybe he's got connections up there with partners or friends or who knows what it is. But he's looking to finish the last 3 years off. And maybe he sort of read the tea leaves a little bit at Collingwood that there's some younger guys on the way up. Yeah, I totally agree. Luke, Oliver situation handled very, very poorly. So look, Taylor Adams on the way out. Will they let him go though? That's an interesting one, Jazz boy. I don't know. I think they'd be happy to let him go. Well, not happy to. That's probably the wrong word. But they're also very confident that they've got a lot of young guys coming through as well, and they've just come off a premiership. So, and really, like, is he going to be the player to? Maybe there'll be a hunger there, but he's another year older. Just look at Geelong, like another year older to a player can really, or to a list, makes a bit of a difference. I think Collingwood's reasonably well set up with the players coming through. I think they'll be okay in the next few years. Where do I think Geelong will finish next year, Brandon? Or Stephen Brandon, Stephen. Oh, mate, I want to be more positive. I really do. I'm sorry. I generally am. Like on this channel, I'm very one-eyed. I will generally probably add a little bit extra, 10% in terms of my optimism, but I'm just not feeling it at the moment. It's just I'm feeling it's very early days, but I think we'll probably finish somewhere between 7th and 12th again. At this early stage, that's probably the best I can come up with. I don't know how we're going to go. Uh, yeah, Luke, what are you saying? I think we really need to add to our team in the trade period, especially the midfield. Won't cut it for the flag. 100%. I don't think it's going to cut it at all. I look, if you're a player, and I'll be the same. If I'm part of this club, if I'm a player, I'm thinking 100% we're going to win it. I'm going to convince myself, and you have to have that mentality as a player, as in anything you do in life. You've got to tell yourself that you are the best and you can make it happen. But I've got the luxury of sitting outside of the club, and yes, there's things that you and I don't see that happen within those walls of the club. But I also see things with, well, I do see things with rose-colored glasses sometimes. But maybe I can be a little bit more objective, and I don't have to worry about hurting people's feelings too much. Because I don't work with them. I'm not part of the club. I'm not in any way connected to the club at all. And I'm thankful that people within the club occasionally come on the show and help us out and do all that. But I also got to call it as it is sometimes as well. I'm just not feeling super, super confident that things are going to be great next year at least. Whether I could be wrong, and we've been wrong before. All of us have been wrong before. All of us have looked a bit silly. I remember trying to get rid of Mark Thompson when I was a younger man in my early 20s, calling for him to get sacked in 2006, and look what happened there. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that one up, Jazz Boy. Sean Darcy from Freo. I would love that. You just don't hear a lot of talk about Geelong. Like I want to hear a little bit more talk about him thinking about coming to Geelong. But the one thing I have heard is that the Cats are maybe keen to get him to walk to Geelong in a year's time. So. We'll see. Hey, he's an interesting body type. That guy. I feel like he's just 1 year away from not being able to go. He's a big guy, so hopefully his body holds up through that time. But look, I've enjoyed it. I totally have enjoyed the last 17, 20 years, even the years that we were building a club as well. Really, really enjoyed the run that we've gone on. Started following the Cats. I've always been a Geelong supporter, bar a couple of months here or there when I was very little. But it's been hard. It's been a hard journey in the late 90s and early noughties after that really good run and making grand finals through the 90s. And then we sort of had a really lean patch there. And but just following the club from when those guys got drafted in, like your Scarlets and your Bartels and Ablets and all that sort of, just seeing their development and culminating in those premierships was just a fantastic ride to be on. And that's why I think if you're a Carlton or maybe even a St Kilda or something like that, if you're one of those supporters from those clubs at the moment, you should be feeling really good. And sometimes you'd love to win a premiership every year, but sometimes it's the journey is the reward as well. And that's I always found that looking back on those years and going through all those hard times, getting that ultimate success was not just that 1 year, that one game. It was a combination of about five or six games as well. Jazz Boy, that's one of the positions that Geelong has struggled with the last 5 years, not having a full-time ruck. It's 100%. And look, credit to Premiership ruckman Reece Stanley. He's probably a good ruckman 75% of the time. He'll throw in a stinker every 4 weeks. That's what you get. But you just want him to do his role. And when everything else is clicking at Geelong, that's all we need to have a successful formula. But yeah, occasionally you throw in a stinker there. It'd be great to have an A-grade ruckman, one of the best 3 ruckmen in the game. That'd be fantastic. Hopefully Toby Conway is that man for us. Fingers crossed. All right, I want to keep the show relatively short tonight. I want to talk a little bit about Callum Mills doing his shot. I won't go on about too much, but I guess these things happen. Probably not great when your captain's getting injured, though. Something pretty silly, but we've all mucked around with our mates or our brothers or our cousins or whatever it is, and just done something silly. And it's not like he was scouring, hanging out of a hotel window or anything like that, and slipped and fell and did his shoulder. It was bit of a wrestling match, but maybe I'm being too lenient on him. I think he's very contrite. He's feeling pretty bad for himself. I don't know how everyone else feels in the chat about that, whether we should come down a little bit harder on him. I just got a message from Paul. How you going, Paul? Paul's not on tonight, by the way. He's had I don't know what it is. I think it's some gaming kind of thing. He might be watching in the chat. I'm not sure, but he's at some gaming thing. He was actually doing a live panel. So Paul, the ultimate professional, doing the live stuff in person at some pub or something like that. It was for the other side of his personality, the gaming side. If you're not familiar with that, check out Dev Diaries. He does some great work there. All right, so Callum Mills, I think give him a pass. I think he'll probably lose the captaincy, sadly, but I think that's probably what he should do. I think he should give it up. He's still quite young. He's still got time to get it back again. I think did the right thing, earn the respect and trust back of your teammates, and just focus on having a good year in 2024. Well, the second half of the year probably now, but hopefully Sydney is good enough that they can cover him. We'll see. Sydney's a team that they're very, very very rarely find themselves out of the top 8. So they should come again, I would imagine, over the next little bit. So as I said, I think I mentioned Aaron Norton. Nothing to do with the trades, but signed an 8-year contract. What is going on with these 8-year contracts, 6-year contracts? It's insane. I really, really hope Geelong doesn't go down this path. I don't care who the player is. I don't care if Max Holmes has a breakout year next year and becomes, top 3 in the Brownlow. It's like, oh, here you go, Max, 10-year deal. I really hope we don't do that. At the very, very most, 5 years, and even that, I'd feel pretty uncomfortable. You just see it year after year after year. A player gets signed, and then all of a sudden they have an injury, and they're never the same again. Or they played their best footy in a contract year when there's something to play for. And then they get the contract, and whatever reason, the form drops off. So I just don't feel comfortable with it at all. But there's probably some examples where it's worked out really well. So I just doesn't sit comfortably with me, and I'm glad the Geelong Cats haven't gone down that path much in recent years. So hopefully they stay the same. But just the last one on the draft stuff for me, I'm just Cats have been really quiet. I think I've sort of touched on this a little bit already, but officially, I think the free agency period, I can't remember where that ends, but the official trade period starts on Monday. And it's like you kind of already know most of what's happening anyway, especially some of the bigger moves. I mean, the Taylor Adams one that dropped today is probably the new one that came out that I don't think anyone was really expecting, but that sounds like he's pretty definite now. And there's a few other players that you may have heard of, but aren't genuine A-grade superstars. I agree. Jazz, how often do they work? I mean, look, if I actually went away and had a look at it, I probably could come back and say, look, there's this one, but I don't know. I think you carry so much risk, and you've got so much money tied up in one player, and it really, really ties you. Your hands are tied for the next 7 years as a club. What do you do? And then you want to get rid of them. You've got to almost take a hit really or pay their contract when they're playing for another club. I don't know how Collingwood won a premiership when they're paying for their ruckman. These names escape me. It'll come back to me. Brodie Grundy. I don't know how they did that, but basically paying another club to play that guy. So Cat's very quiet. We'll see what happens in the next couple of days. I'm sure if you're listening to any of the major sporting radio stations, SEN's probably the main one that people, or trade radio through the afl.com.au website. Not a plug. Do I have a plug button? There we go. I don't know if that works. Ching, ching. There you go. I've got to talk about that. One more thing before I get onto the Carja Greaves medal, because I do want to talk about the Carja Greaves medal, and I want to hear everyone's thoughts on how that night went as well. If you did watch it on the live stream, or if you're at the game, at the event, keen to hear that. But before that, I want to talk about some coaches that might be coming in. A former coach, or a former, I think he was a coach, James Riley, former player with the Cats through our premiership run as well. Didn't actually get to be in any of those premiership teams, but it was pretty. Played a few games during that period as well, and he's come over, not officially signed yet, but pretty much they're going with it really in the papers and all that. That he's coming back to the Cats in a role that was vacated by Sean Grigg, who's gone up to join his premiership coach Damien Hardwick at the Gold Coast Suns. So it'd be good to get him back. And it was great back in the days when it was Harley and Scarlett and Raleigh. It used to be Harls and Scarls and Rales. That was back in the day. There might have been another one as well. It was a Thurley. We used to go Thurls. Anyway, everyone had a Rales, Harls, and Scarls. So he's back. Stephen King, another premiership player from Geelong, who somehow found himself into the premiership side in 2007 after having a pretty good game in the VFL grand final, winning a premiership 6 days earlier and bumped Mark Blake out of that side. So Stephen King missing out on the Gold Coast role. He's being talked about as a potential to come back. I think Josh Jenkins has moved on from the club. I don't know if he's moved on from the club, but he's definitely not in that sort of specialist ruck role anymore. So that would probably be an obvious one for Stephen King. Not that that's his only skill set, but that's probably where I could see him sort of fitting. I don't know, but keen to know what other people think about it. I mean, do we know? I mean, we may not know James Rowley and Stephen King that much, especially if you're, in your 20s or whatever, and you're watching this show. But for anyone who's a little bit older, in the sort of late 30s, 40s, like myself, those names you might remember them a little bit. Stephen King actually did get traded. We traded him, but we didn't trade him. He wasn't going to get as much opportunities after that 2007 grand final, so we let him go to St Kilda for like pick 90 or something like that. And he ended up playing a pretty pivotal role for St Kilda for the next couple of years and made a grand final or two with them. It might have been one grand final. I can't remember if he played in the 2010 grand final, but he was definitely there in 2009. So unfortunately didn't get that one, but thankfully for us, we did. All right, onto the Cardew Greaves medal. I love a Cardew Greaves medal night. I really do. I was really dirty. I couldn't get to it this year. Just had the kids at home and just couldn't find a way to make it work. And then I think it was about $60 more expensive than the previous year, even for members. But yeah, look, I'll definitely go next year. I was really keen to get along with Paul this year, but it's just the timing wasn't great. I think as Paul's got a fair bit on with his gaming stuff this time of year. So, but we'll try and get there next year. And if you're keen to, who knows what this channel looks like in a year's time as well. We are pretty keen to bring in some extra people to the channel as well. So they've just flashed up a little banner there. So if you're keen to join our team, or anyone who doesn't mind having their face on camera, look at me. I'm not the prettiest person in the world, but I don't mind getting on the camera and having a chat. So just talk about the Cats. There's no big deal. We'll start you off slow if you're keen to get involved. So by all means. But yeah, I'd love to go along to the Cardew Greaves medal with a few people from the channel. And just have a good old night with it, and get to meet a couple of players, probably some of the younger guys who play in the VFL a little bit that aren't going to be as harassed as much. Last year when we won the premiership, you couldn't go near the premiership players, but yeah, a lot of the VFL players we got to have a chat with after the game, which was nice. After the event, which was great. One more thing on the big contracts. Brandon says it's very dangerous, big contracts, way too much risk. Stop doing that. We all thought Clayton Oliver wanted to leave. Yeah, we all thought he wanted to go. So congratulations to Tom Stewart. Fantastic. He's second Cardew Greaves, second best and fairest for the club, an absolute champion of the club. I think most of us probably had him winning it, especially for the back end of the year that he had. He was a bit knocked up, banged around a bit in the first half, but really put in a terrific finish to the year. So congrats to him. Also, especially big congratulations to Tom Atkins for finishing second. He was kind of one of those guys who's been under the radar all year long. Just did his thing. It's all about the team with Tom. All about the team. That's all he cares about. He was just fantastic all year round. So I love that. I love that bloke. I did think Brian Myers would finish in the top three, and he did. I actually picked the top three exactly, but I didn't get four. I didn't have Zach Guthrie finishing fourth. So I did have him in the top 10, but to finish fourth is fantastic for him. Well done, big baby Guthrie, or Z-Banger, as you're known around the club. Fantastic effort from him. And then I think I had Jeremy Cameron coming fifth. So I got 4 out of the 5. So I was just about there. So I'm not sure if anyone picked it exactly. If you did, or if you know anyone that did, let me know. I'll make sure I give them a shout out on the show. That was, yeah. But it was look, I watched it on, I didn't get to go, as I said, so I watched it on the live stream. It's a tough watch on the live stream. wasn't great. It's not like watching the Brownlow Medal night. It's a very different type of production. What you can see, the angles you get, there's just no real shots of the players reacting. It's it's very much just here's the screen, and when there's nothing going on, it's just everyone's just eating dinner, and I don't know. I kind of feel like I wish they sort of did that stuff before the formalities, got your dinner out of the way with and all that, but they don't do it that way. So maybe that's something. Give some feedback if you're a member and you want to give that feedback to the club. I don't know how other clubs do it. maybe. I've never been to another best and fairest. I've been to the Cards Groups a couple of times, and it's been absolutely fantastic every time I've been. But watching it on the live stream, yeah, I can't say that I was that pleased by it. I think last year they didn't even have a live stream, so at least they've got that up and going again. Couple more things to round out the show. The draft combine was on today, and I think the last couple of days. So apparently, Brian Myers and Mitch Duncan were there interviewing some of the players. I think it was like a speed dating kind of thing with about 60 draft hopefuls, and they got to chat with a few of them. So interesting that the club sent some players along. I don't know. Maybe that says something about how seriously we're taking the draft this year. We've already got our one player that we want, and we're fairly confident that we're going to get them. So who knows? But I know Grian's a big footy head. He just loves his footy and can't get enough of it. And Mitch, I don't know. It's interesting that Mitch Duncan went along. Maybe he's got an eye on a career in coaching or some kind of footy involvement beyond his playing days in a year or two or three. We'll see how he goes. And some other Geelong news. And again, we always try and bring this back to Geelong. It is the Hoop Show after all. A sad farewell to former players, Nakia Cockatoo, and who's the other one? Charlie Constable, former players for the club, both up in Queensland, actually, with Brisbane and Gold Coast. But those guys have called it a day. Fortunately, Nakia Cockatoo just couldn't get a run at it with his body and so forth, and then he just couldn't crack the Brisbane side in the end. The Brisbane, just the timing wasn't great, really. I think if Brisbane was a bit of a rabble, they might have given him a few more opportunities, but they were just too strong. So, and Charlie Constable, a great VFL player and a good leader at that club, but went out on a Gold Coast premiership in the VFL, so good on him for that. And we'll probably see him in some form or another. I don't know if he'll be playing. If he's retiring from the AFL, is he retiring from all 40 levels? Who knows? Maybe you'll see him at a local level. I don't know actually where he hails from, but yeah. Anyway, good luck to those two. And if there's anyone else I've missed, I apologise. Rounding out the show, and I will do a much more in-depth discussion about this through the week, but the AFL women's team had a loss to Essendon today. Now, is it a good thing? Is it a good thing that I'm pissed off about it? Because you never used to be that. I was always had an eye on the AFL women's and always wanted them to do well and watched every game. But if we lost, whatever, no big deal. I didn't wreck my weekend like it does with the men. It shouldn't rule my life like that, but footy does, unfortunately. And it's getting that way with the AFL women's team as well. I'm very, very unhappy with the loss today against Essendon, especially with another strong first half, or at least a first quarter, where it seems to be the theme that we start games really well, and for whatever reason, maybe there's many reasons why it's happening. We just can't sustain it for the 4 quarters. I know the coach was talking about wanting a 4-quarter effort. He said we'll take a 3-quarter effort. We can. We didn't even get that today, so really, really disappointing. Unfortunately, just couldn't get it done up in Warrnambool, and the Bombers' second-year team. Too good for us. Yeah, really, really disappointing. I'm not going to go to the point of saying I'm angry with it. I'm not going to pick out certain players and say it's your fault. But yeah, it's a shame. I'm sure they're probably feeling pretty gutted and down on themselves as well. But I was chatting with my boy Jake from the Jack Cats, and just said maybe this is for the AFL women's comp. Our team, this is our 2006. A bit like the men's team had that really sort of year where they just had all these high hopes and they just didn't deliver on it. It's really disappointing. So we'll see. I think we're back home again next weekend. I think I have to double check that. So my tipping's absolutely terrible too. So that's the other reason I'm pissed off about it. So anyway, but yeah, congratulations in closing to the Prasparkas sisters, Maddie and Georgie, on 50 games and 25 games respectively. Absolute champion footballers, absolute guns. You're very, very lucky. We're lucky, and so is Essendon, to have those players at our clubs. So fantastic. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining in. As I said, just a quick show tonight. Well, probably 25 minutes in the end. Thank you for joining in. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe. We love it. We're building. We're nearly getting to 900. We want to get to 1,000 if we can. Spread the word. Share the love. We really appreciate you guys joining in and watching. And until next time, go Cats. See you, everyone.